Hello, I'm Nancy Maddox on WYTV7 on Shine Your Light Radio Ministry. And are we in for a treat today? My interviewee, my person that I'm interviewing, I tracked her down, I scoped her out, and I found her, and we finally got together. I'm so excited. But let me just tell you a little bit about WYTV first, YTV7. We are a nonprofit. We have several million viewers that view our broadcast. We have several broadcasters, been in business about 5 or 6 years, so it's really exciting. And I scope people out that I want to interview on my show, Shine Your Light, because I want them to be able to shine their light to the world. It's about who I interview, not about me or not about my show, but it's just allowing people to understand a little bit more about the most interesting people in the world to me. So I'm really excited for tonight. I think you're going to really enjoy this. Our guest today is Barbara Parsons. She is really known as Barbara the Welder. So we're going to talk a little bit about this beautiful young woman who is an entrepreneur and who does absolutely beautiful work. I do want you to look at her work as we get through with the interview and just take a look. I mean, she's absolutely fantastic. She is a metal sculptor, designer, and a creator. She's also a published author. So without further ado, Miss Barbara, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
How are you doing? I'm a full-time artist, and I've been a full-time artist for about 5.5 years now. I have published 4 books. 3 books are how to weld art using scrap metal, and the 4th one is called The Inspiration Blueprint.
Wow. Well, tell me a little bit about how you got where you are. In your bio, I read that you went from welfare to where you are now, which is absolutely fantastic. God has been very good to you. You've got a lot of blessings. But tell us what led up to this.
I started out of high school as an auto mechanic. My dad was a diesel mechanic, and my dad always taught me everything. I just followed him around as a kid, and so I learned to work with my hands at a very young age and really enjoyed it. Loved spending time with my dad. And when it came time to choose a career, I chose auto mechanics. I dealt with sexism from the very beginning in auto mechanics, and not everyone has the same experience, but I just one job after another, and I was very young. I didn't know how to handle it. I had BOCES education in high school. I had college education in college for auto mechanics. But after 7 years and just dealing with a bunch of different jobs, I just lost my heart for it and went to work for myself. I delivered pizzas. I hauled scrap metal, and just through struggling, I had 2 young boys and a husband, after a while, and my husband wasn't very helpful and wasn't really cut out to be a husband or a dad, and so wasn't helping financially. And his daughter, our son together, and then my son, the 5 of us ended up living in the projects here locally. And we were on welfare, and even though I was working hard every single day, I couldn't make enough money to support our family. During that time, I became very depressed. I had dealt with depression throughout my life. I didn't know what it was for a long time, just felt like I just was always unhappy and just didn't understand why, but later on found out it was depression. During this time, we sat down and watched this movie called Castaway starring Tom Hanks. In the movie, this woman, in the beginning, there's like this 15-second clip, and this woman is welding these giant metal angel wings, and it just spoke to my soul. I have no background in art. I have no background in welding. There's no evidence whatsoever that this is even a good idea, but for it was like being struck by lightning, and I knew that was my sole mission. I told everyone that that's what I wanted to do. I told my parents, my husband, and everyone thought I was just crazy. They said it was foolish. Oh, they did. I can't draw. Like I'm actually learning to draw right now. Like really learning to draw. I just started like a month ago. But like I just like my stick figures. I do stick figures, and everyone's like, "Ew, what's that?" So there was no evidence that I could be successful. But I knew I needed to weld art, and that was my mission. And so my idea was like the first thing I need to do is learn to weld, and then I can learn to do the art. So I went to BOCES and found out that they had a course that taught welding that was $1,200. The previous year I had made $10,000 hauling scrap metal and just working for myself. I was working diligently every day, but I was just barely making enough money to cover gas in order to go out the next day to find more scrap metal. And then like you find a whole truckload of stuff and you get like $60 and you work all day for it. And it's just, I was happier working for myself than I was working for a company just because of dealing with the sexism, but I was just financially and emotionally bankrupt. I find out that it's $1,200 to go to this course, and I go home and I'm like, I have to do this. This is my mission. And I was called selfish. I was called self-centered. There was just like, everyone's like, no, this is the wrong, my husband's like, this is not the right decision. My parents are like, this is silly. They wouldn't let me borrow money because I didn't have a way to pay them back. And I totally understand. They've been very supportive, but they just, I get it. Like as a parent, I'm like, there's not a way in heck that I would give my kids that money. If they were in that position, it was just, it just seemed like a pipe dream. But I made a defiant decision. I said to myself, I said to everyone else, I'm like, I'm earning this money and I don't care what it takes. I'm going to do this. I defied everybody. And over the course of 9 months, I was able to save up $1,200 to go to school. November 2007, I started school. And the minute that I started welding, I knew that I'd made the right decision all along. I knew it was right for me. 6-month class, my teacher kept telling me, he's like, you need to go to Cameron Manufacturing and Design. It's a local custom fabrication shop. He's like, you need to go there and get a job. I'm like, I don't want to work for anyone because of what I had dealt with in automotive. My teacher begged me to go, and like third or fourth conversation we had, he finally gave up and he says, class, we're going on a field trip. Yeah. He took our entire class on this field trip to go to this company so I could see it, because he knew that was the right move for me. He saw the passion. He saw that I was teachable and that I was creative. He saw the creativity. He would give me a project like make a shelf for that metal over there and like make it look like this one, and I could go over and do it. So he saw it and like pushed me. So we went on a class trip, and I walk into this shop, and I'd been watching these fabrication shows on TV like Biker Build Off and Orange County Choppers and Monster Garage. And we walk into the shop, and here's all these machines I'm seeing on TV. And then the welders, and I just like, oh, it's just everything. And it was just like most girls see shoes and I get so excited, and I see all these machines. I see all these machines and I just like, oh, I just love it. So I fell in love with the shop, and I finally went and talked to the company. And I figured at the time, I think minimum wage was about $8-ish. Don't quote me on that. I asked for $10 an hour, figuring I was worth about, $9 with my skills. And I was like, it'll give me some wiggle room. And they offered me $13 an hour to start. 2.5 times as much money a year as I'd been making.
Wow.
I took the job. I worked there for about 9 months, and after 9 months, my husband still wasn't helping. I was doing all the work and everything else, and he just would not step up and be a good husband or supportive or be a good dad to the kids. He was an alcoholic, or at least drinking very heavily, and that was his focus, was that and video games, and he wasn't willing to support the family. And so I made a decision to divorce him, which was deeply difficult because of the family, but I knew that if my sons continued seeing him make the decisions that he would, that my sons would grow up and like, that's a male role model. So I, it was so difficult, but I knew it was the right move. So I divorced him. I fixed my credit over the course of the next couple of years. I fixed my credit. I saved up and I purchased my home for the garage. And then went and over a little bit more time started saving up and buying machines, a welder, a plasma cutter, 2 different welders and a plasma cutter, and some tools for the house. And after 3.5 years or 4 years of working at that company full time, I started making art in my shop part-time after work and on the weekends.
Wow. Well, you're just the epitome of an entrepreneur. I believe that's why I really wanted to interview you, because young women need to hear this story. It doesn't always have to be college and books and all of that. You can live your dream as long as you keep working at it. So I just think it's so important, and I'm really excited to have you. I read through your stuff, and of course I've looked at all your artwork and it's absolutely gorgeous. I have a picture of the angel that you made that was so beautiful. I just don't know how you do it. I mean, it's like you don't draw it out, you just weld it and make it. So it's so beautiful. But anyway, you said art for me is a passion bordering on obsession. Talk a little bit about that, because that's so important for people that will be watching this, because that's true. You have to be obsessed with whatever you want to do to keep doing it.
I love that you see the positive in that, because people hear the word obsession and it's very negative. But for me, wanting to be a metal sculptor, I was laser focused on that. And all the negativity from everybody, all the naysayers, all the people that said that's a bad decision to, when I went to save up the money for that, when I went to quit my job, there was so many people that were like, you are making the biggest mistake of your life. But I knew in my heart that I would make it happen. And today, I'm not in the shop. If I'm not in the shop and I'm doing something I'm thinking about in the shop, I create my sculptures in my head several times before I even touch them. So, I mean, like, I can problem solve stuff. When I go into the shop, it feels like the sculptures just kind of come through me. But that obsession, I'm constantly like, how can I stay relevant? How can I push myself as an artist? How can I sell more? How can I get my social media to be better? How can I find passive income? Like, how can I create passive income to help me succeed so that I'm not scared about paying my bills on a monthly basis? Yeah, constantly. My art and my business is an absolute obsession. I love my boys more than anything in the world, but I literally am like, have to stop myself in the shop. Like, my gosh, like, my son will come home from school and he'll say, hey, did you get dinner? I'm like, I haven't even eaten lunch yet. Time goes away and I'm so focused on what I'm doing, but it's because I'm in love with my art and I'm in love with my life, how it is today. And I'm deeply happy to do every single thing that I'm doing, because I got a very clear vision in my head. I'm like, what do I want my life to look like? What do I want? Like, how do I want my business to serve me? And so I literally am just like constantly like, how can I tweak this and make this better? How can I do this? And how can I set it up so it serves me so I can serve other people?
Well, your artwork is so unique and it's so absolutely beautiful. I can envision really in the future especially with the companies you're already working with you doing really big sculptures for these big high-rise buildings and all. I mean, I really think it'll happen. And that's why I love to have you on something like this, the smallest show as it is, because you never know who's going to watch this. And we have millions of viewers on WYTV7. The right person just might watch it. Just never know. It's just the way things happen. But you also said, and I'm glad you brought up love. You said anything less than living a life you're madly in love with is unacceptable. And I absolutely love that saying too, because it's true. If you don't love what you do, then you just don't have the heart and the passion to do it. And that's exactly how I was. I'm older now, but during my career, I absolutely loved what I did. I wanted to do it. I wanted to be there every day. And that's what you have to strive to do to be happy. So, but I'm really excited for you, Barbie the welder, because I just think your work is so beautiful. So I like it that you talk about that. I want to talk a little bit about your books. You said 3 of them are instructional books on how to weld. And is that how to turn sculptures from welding too, or just what?
There's just a short part in the beginning of each of them teaching you a little bit about welding, but they're mainly on how to weld scrap metal art. My first welding book is how to weld horseshoe crafts, where the entire crafts are only made using like horseshoes, whether they're repurposed or new. The second one is how to weld silverware animals. So just using silverware, 30 different animals that you can create. And the one I just had published in November 2019 is how to make scrap metal art. And that's just using random scrap from, and because it's just like most of my stuff is made using scrap metal, like nails and gears and just stuff laying around, old tools and stuff laying around. You can make just so many different things. But my goal is to make metal art creation easy, so it's fast and easy for people to be successful and happy and proud of what they're doing. I struggled for a long time to learn. It took me very long to learn. I never thought about going on YouTube. I would look at a picture and then I would just figure it out. And so now I've figured out how to make all these sculptures. I do videos on YouTube teaching people step by step how to do it. Because some people are visual and they need it, they need that video, and then other people like to read and want the pictures and want to be able to scan. So I wrote the books to make it as easy as possible.
Well, I think that's fabulous. I mean, that's really sharing your gift and your talent with people. And, people don't really always like to do that. So I think it's great. But the sculptures are just so beautiful. It's amazing that it's made out of scrap metal. I mean, really. I wish we had one we could put up here. Maybe I can get Miss Libby to insert a couple of pictures of some of your sculptures in the interview, which would be awesome for people to see that, because it really caught my eye when I saw it. And but I want to talk a little bit longer about your last book, The Inspiration Blueprint: How to Design and Create Your Inspired Life. So let's talk a little bit. Let's talk a lot about that, because really I'm hoping that people will grasp this wonderful, beautiful spirit that you have and really be able to use it and buy your book.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. I spent so much of my life emotionally and financially bankrupt that when I found welding and when I found art, it changed everything. I did not set out to remove depression from my life, which I've had since a very young age. I was bullied and I did whatever I could to fit in. So at a young age, I got into drugs and alcohol myself, just to escape one and to fit in the other. And it just a lot of it just ended up hurting me emotionally. It just messes with your emotions. And so I ended up being depressed. And like I said, I was depressed before I even got into drugs and alcohol. But just know how it feels to be emotionally bankrupt and mentally and emotionally bankrupt. When I found welding, I didn't set out to change the depression. But what ended up happening like happy accident, which there are no accidents, but happily, is that I saved up the money for school, which is a massive win for me. And so there was like this, like, yeah, you did it, you know, he's a little win. And then I went through the 6-month course. And my teacher's like, Barbie, you've got potential. Like, you can do this. Let's get you a job, you know, at Cameron. And then I get this job. I mean, like, they offered me $3 more an hour than I asked for. That's a massive win. You know, I mean, like, I can finally, I mean, like, I've worked all my life. I've always worked, but I've never been able to provide for my sons in a way that I felt like they deserve. Even though I was married, it's like being a single parent, and my oldest boy, single parent all his life without support, and just have struggled financially, even though I've been a very hard worker. Again, like, choices are my own, and I totally take responsibility for all of them. But getting that job, like, a boost and, you know, a little bit of like, yeah, you know, like, proud of you. And then, you know, I started, like, I did, like, struggle a lot with welding. There's so much to learn. And even though people were wonderful and never dealt with any sexism, wonderfully, it was just a whole nother world for me. The company was phenomenal. Even though people were sharing their stuff, it took me a long time to get it. But as I was getting these small successes, like, oh, I learned TIG welding. Like, I can successfully make this weld, like, really nice looking. Or now I can read a blueprint and I can make this part the way it's supposed to. Oh, the part I made went through quality control the first time instead of the third time. So these little successes I was having ended up building up my self-esteem, and I had no idea, and I just didn't realize it until, gosh, probably like several years in. I'm like, wait a second. I mean, like, and listen, I wasn't successful right off as a business owner. I failed spectacularly for a long time until I kind of figured some stuff out. But I was having these little successes, and so it was building up. And after I really got my business to where, like, I started, like, taking an unapologetic look at a non-judgmental look at myself and saying, like, I'm not being judgy, but Barbie, you're not good at sales. Like, as I was going full time as an artist, like, okay, how can you fix that? And, like, just by taking a look, like, what ended up happening is, like, I'm like, okay, I want to be good at sales. I want my art to take me all over the world. I want I want to only make one-of-a-kind sculptures. I don't want to mass-produce stuff. I want to spend a lot of time in the shop. I really want to travel and adventure with and without work. I want to have some fun too. I want to get back to fishing. Like, I really started to take a look at my life and, like, how can I make my life exactly what I want? Like, have it serve me so I can serve others. And what ended up happening is my life, I stopped needing motivation, and I was just so inspired every single morning. I was never a morning person, and next thing you know, I'm hopping out of bed like I can't, like Christmas every day. I can't wait to get to bed so I can get up so I can go back into the shop. And listen, and this is after time. This was not right away. Like the first few weeks were like that, but then I wasn't selling, and so there was some depression and some failure. But after, I'm going to say 3.5, 4, probably 4 to 4.5 years into being a full-time artist. So about 1.5 years ago-ish is when things really just have been, like, blossoming and blooming, and things are just absolutely perfect. But what happened was the inspiration blueprint, like, I had a very clear picture of what I wanted my life to look like. I was absolutely relentless about going after it. Work ethic was insane work ethic. I worked 7 days a week for the first 3.5 years without taking days off. There was a lot of fear behind it. It wasn't always work ethic. There was like, oh my gosh, if you take a day off, like, you're going to fail. So there was definitely some fear behind it, but having that clear picture and being laser focused on what that, like, just relentless about working towards it and figuring it out and problem solving. But I look back and I'm just like, I realize, like, wait a second, I'm not depressed anymore. My life really is just absolutely magical today. I have a better relationship with my kids than I ever have. better relationship with my parents than I ever have. I'm just in love with my life, in love with who I am. I look in the mirror today and I love me for like the first time in my life. And I'm very proud of who I am. And what ended up happening is I decided to write the inspiration blueprint because I now have seen both sides of this, like the emotional bankrupt and just the emotional bliss. And I'm like, if I can do this, then other people can too. And I feel like it's my responsibility to share my journey. And the book is really just how I have made myself who I am. It's very short, sweet, and to the point. I think there's 13. Don't quote. I don't know. I think there's 13 chapters, but there's 73 pages in it. And it's
but see, that's what people want. People need to pick something up and be able to get to the point and get what they need out of it. So, I mean, I love that. I love that about your book, and I just think your story is just so magnificent. I mean, you've overcome a lot of obstacles to be so young, and it's because you were focused. You knew what you wanted to do, and now you have a happy life, which is just super, super fantastic. So tell us a little bit about some of your projects, like which ones were the hardest, or describe them to us, things like that. It says you got 30 welding projects featuring animals from land, sea, air, and angel sculpture. But you've got more than that. I mean, that was like the animal art you were talking about, right?
That was just one of the books.
Yeah.
I've made probably thousands of sculptures. My first masterpiece, like, I knew in my head that I could do this, but I had been looking at pictures on Google and like, oh, someone made a heart out of horseshoes. I can do that. And I just problem solved how to do it. And I went on that way for a very long time, just by looking at other people's stuff and like putting my twist on it, but just taught myself, part-time after work and on the weekends, how to do it. And I had a couple successes and made some a little bit more, complicated pieces, but really a lot of it was just sticking stuff together and like pictures that I'd seen. I ended up having a client come to me that knew me from a local entrepreneur group that I joined, which was a total game changer. And he owns a funeral home, and he asked me, he says, Barbie, he says, can you make an angel with praying hands? And I said, absolutely, yes, I can. He says, I want it life-size. I'm like, oh, goody. So,
that's the one I saw, though. I was so impressed with him. Like, oh, my word.
Oh.
It's big, right? It's big.
That one is 5 foot tall. And
oh, my
what
word.
ended up happening is, so I searched online, and I started looking around for pictures of angels. And I actually found this angel that's got her head down on her arms, like she's sitting down on the ground with her arms down, and her wings were up. And I think it was made out of tires. I'm not even sure where it was made, but I showed the picture of the client. I said, I feel like this is the way you should go, not the standing one. I'm like, everyone has that? Not everyone, but that's more of a common one. I'm like, I feel like this one is just evokes so much emotion. And the man took my word on it. I'd never done anything close to this. I knew in my heart that I could do it. And I've always just, like, my clients say, Barbie, can you do this? And I say, yes, I can. And I figure it out later. And that's what I did with that. That was my very first masterpiece sculpture. It is just magnificent. And I still cry. I actually go and visit her. She's like 10 minutes from my house. I go visit her almost on a regular basis. It was just a game changer. Because of not being able to draw, I've always had to show people this is what I can do, and then hope to heck they buy it later on, or hope someone gives me an opportunity. I've created sculptures live at events. And the most difficult one was a year and a half ago. I created a masterpiece sculpture live at Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. They gave me a week to do it. I had never created a masterpiece live. And I drove out to Sturgis by myself, set up my tent, set up my welders, sold my art there, and created a sculpture for Harley Davidson that was presented to them live during a concert at the Full Throttle Saloon.
Oh, my word!
Just incredible. So far I've made 2 sculptures for Harley Davidson. I made an aluminum tree sculpture live at SEMA, which is an aftermarket car show in Las Vegas, about a year and a half ago on that one as well. And I'm scheduled actually to go to Germany this March, and I'm going to start a sculpture here at home, and I'm going to finish it in Cologne, Germany.
Oh, my goodness. I'm so happy for you. That's awesome. My goodness. Well, I know your stuff is beautiful. I'm going to see if I can get Miss Libby to somehow find a picture of the angel sculpture and maybe put it in here for people to see. But we're almost out of time, and I thank you so much for being with me. Your work is just absolutely fabulous. Your story is awesome. I think it's going to help a lot of people, because people just need to know that you can achieve happiness, but you have to be laser focused to do it. You have to know what you want and move forward. You're just a delightful person, and I love your spirit. So I thank you so much. Will you just tell us what your webpage is so people can go and look at your stuff, Miss Barbie?
My webpage is barbiethewelder.com. And I would like to add really quickly, you only need one person to believe in you to do stuff, and that's you. You don't need anyone else to believe in you. As long as you believe in yourself, that is the only one that matters. And eventually, if you work hard enough and stay focused long enough on the right things, you will produce results, and people will have no choice but to believe in you.
And I love that. That's absolutely true. Wow. Well, it's been absolutely beautiful. I thank you again for your time. The enemy did not stop this interview, even though we had a lot of changes. Yay, we made it through. And I just wish you the best, Barbie. And I'm going to interview you again in a year or so just to see what's happening and see what you've done. But we will direct people to your webpage. And I want to mention the book one more time, The Inspiration Blueprint, How to Design and Create Your Inspired Life. So hold it up one more time for us. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Miss Barbie the Welder. I appreciate you, okay?
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.